Hey everybody, welcome back to Three Acorn Bourbon. We've got a really cool and unique bite-sized bourbon review for you today. We've recently done some single barrel reviews, and we're going to take it to the other end of the spectrum now, with possibly the best whiskey blender on the market, and maybe one of the best whiskeys from one of the best whiskey blenders. When you think good bourbon blending, you think Barrell Craft Systems. Now, Barrell Craft Systems has a couple of different lines of whiskey that are very highly reviewed, and one of them is Dovetail. Barrell Craft Systems is known for its innovative approach to whiskey blending, taking different whiskeys with different ages from all different kinds of sources. And Dovetail in particular is recognized for its meticulous blending of bourbons, ryes, and other kinds of whiskeys. Now, one really cool thing about Barrell Craft Systems is their emphasis on having unique batches. Their commitment to exploration and experimentation means that expressions like Dovetail can vary between releases, which can provide bourbon enthusiasts different kinds of tasting experiences. Now, Barrell Craft Systems is known for producing small batches of their releases, known to focus on quality over quantity. Now, this allows them to carefully select barrels and blend for the flavor profiles that they want, without having to worry about tons of bottles and consistency. Barrell Craft Spirits is known for bottling things near or at cask strength. This means the whiskey is not diluted before bottling from the barrel, allowing consumers to taste the whiskey in a more concentrated, authentic form. And you know we here at Three Acorn Bourbon love our cask strength bourbons. So the distillery describes the tasting notes of this whiskey with nose, palate, and finish. However, they also have a section that states when you add a couple drops of spring water that you get this unexpected aroma of orange and tropical notes and watermelon. Adding a few drops of spring water? What are they talking about? There's three really popular ways to consume whiskey. There's neat, with a splash of water, which is what I prefer, and over ice, and I guess mixed with Coke, but we're not covering that here. Drinking a bourbon neat allows you to experience a full, undiluted flavor profile of the whiskey. You get all the flavors and all the intensity. Many people view this as the pure way to drink whiskey. If you can stand the heat, drink it neat. But I do want to make the case for my preferred consumption method, a splash of water. Now that can be anywhere from a few drops of water, all the way up to what I do. I bring it up to my refrigerator water dispenser, turn on the water dispenser for the shortest amount of time possible. And that gives me a very short, nicely filtered splash of water. And I found this can actually enhance the flavors of the whiskey, opening up new aromas, even provide a smoother drinking experience. Rand Friedman of the Linnaeus University Center of Biomaterials Chemistry in Sweden conducted an experiment with computer models simulating how molecules in whiskey interact. They found it was common for flavor and aroma compounds to get trapped under ethanol molecule clusters. Adding water helped break up these clusters, allowing the flavor and aroma compounds to reach the surface. While this experiment was extremely simplified, used a computer model, and was focused on Scotch instead of bourbon, the results are interesting and supported by anecdotal evidence, including my own. And the third option is drinking bourbon over ice. And drinking bourbon over ice can mellow that intensity, creating a colder and more refreshing drink. Now, while mellowing the whiskey can introduce some more subtle flavors to the drinker, that ice-cold drink can also numb the palate. And as the ice melts, it dilutes the bourbon, likely altering the overall taste. And once you have too much water in there, you've ruined the bourbon. Our tasting and olfactory sensors are sensitive and rely on the concentration of different compounds to pick up the taste and the scent. And as you dilute that whiskey, you get less taste and you get less scent. And if you're not drinking bourbon for the taste and scent, what are you doing? Ultimately, the choice between drinking bourbon neat, with a splash of water, or over ice is a personal preference. It all depends on the desired drinking experience. If I'm drinking something at 90 proof, 80 proof, I tend to drink it neat. However, once I reach something like Bottled and Bond, which is 100 proof, or higher, something cask strength, I like a splash of water. So ultimately, it's up to you. Try your favorite bourbon neat and with a splash of water, and see if you can pick out any differences in aroma and flavor. And let me know down in the comments how you prefer your bourbon. Alright, that's enough about water. So Barrell Craft Systems' Dovetail expression is actually named after dovetail joints in carpentry. It's a woodworking joint known for strength and durability. They're created using interlocking trapezoidal-shaped pins and tails, creating this tight and sturdy connection without the need for additional fasteners. Now that's a metaphor for this whiskey, because people at Barrell Craft Systems spent almost a year perfecting this blend, honing that interplay between these different components. So Barrell Craft Systems feels like they've created something pretty special here, blending these spirits to coalesce into something understood to be greater than the sum of its parts, getting all these different whiskeys to interlock perfectly, just like a dovetail joint. Are they right? Or is it all marketing and very little substance? let's get into the tasting notes. Let's start with the nose. It's super sweet in a really unique way. Dovetail is a whiskey blend made partially from whiskeys finished in port and rum barrels, and it is fruity, it is sweet, and it's savory. You mostly get this like rich and thick molasses, and you get the ethanol and some of that heat from the proof, and then you get those rum fruits, and then some bourbon fruits, right? Some apricot, a lot of like raisin and citrus. And there's like a little bit of smoke, but it's unique in that it's also like herbal and floral in a way that a lot of bourbons aren't. I mean, it's exceptionally complex. It smells really nice and inviting and interesting. Let's give it a sip. It's got a full sweetness. I mean, it runs the entire gamut. You've got like a light caramel all the way up to like burnt sugar. Toasted marshmallow. You've got all the dark fruits. You've got like deeper caramel into like the toffees and the molasses. I mean, it's got all of that. It's like a sugar cane, plums, cherries. And you've got your classic bourbon flavors of the vanilla and the caramel. Honestly, I'm getting some of that like the E.H. Taylor, kind of like that cola flavor. Yeah, it's just sweet and it's rich. But you've also got the charred oak and a lot of these roasted flavors. And that burnt marshmallow flavor, it is sweet, but it's also kind of roasty. And then you've got some of that counteracting nutmeg spiciness with this medium full body that really coats the mouth. This whiskey as a blend of whiskeys finished in port barrels and finished in rum barrels makes it really difficult to compare to other bourbons because this has flavor profiles that are so out there compared to more traditional bourbons. All right, let's let it sit. Let's see how the finish is. It's kind of got a mellow, peppery spice, and that high proof still has the mouth tingling. What's interesting is normally you get the charred oak and you get the nutmeg and the cinnamon spices lingering, but here I'm really getting like a toasted burnt marshmallow flavor that kind of rides out the finish. Some dark fruits, some plums, some fig, maybe a little bit of honey, but it's mostly that roasted burnt sugar. It's long and it's warming, and as that sweetness slowly fades, you really want another sip. This is an excellent made bourbon and proof that every single good whiskey isn't a single barrel. You can also have a really interesting, really delicious whiskey, blending different ages, blending different finishes, as long as you know what you're doing. And Barrell Craft Systems definitely knows what they're doing. Well, that's it for today. I really appreciate you all stopping by Three Acorn Bourbon and coming along with me on this bite-sized bourbon review. And remember everyone, whiskey is meant to be shared. Open your bottles, make some memories, and I'll catch you in the next one.